The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Now broadcasting from the Right to Offend Media Studios in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, art, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report Live with Sam Whitfield.
But giving offense is good. In fact, it's essential.
And hello there, folks. Welcome to the Monday edition of the Whitfield Report. I'm your host, Sam Whitfield, recording here from Right to Offend Media Studios. And joining me for this week's podcast is Ryan Permision. I hope I got the last name right.
Close enough. It's Permision, but you're good, man. Okay.
Fair enough. I apologize. Sometimes I get names mixed up, but Ryan Permision from the And I Quote YouTube channel. And Ryan, like myself, is a podcaster and an aspiring author who has a lot of different, he, unlike me, who just hosts this show and Bits and Bones, Ryan hosts, I don't know, 5 shows, or you host a lot. You make me look like an amateur.
No.
And I've been at this for 17 years. So
that's a long time. But no, it's great, man. No, I do 3 shows a week. It's a lot of fun. I do 2 on my channel, 1 for another person's channel or another team channel that I collaborate with. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but well, it's not really work. It's something I love to do. And if you love something that you do, it's never called work. So it's a blast. But yeah, I host 3 shows a week, 2 on Friday nights, 1 on Saturday afternoons. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I get to meet new people every week. I get to ask them questions. I get to find out more about their passions and what their hopes and dreams are. So it's a blast. To give you a bit of an idea, Fridays are either movie watch along at 7 o'clock Eastern, or a meeting a fandom episode, or a special episode of And I Quote. And then Friday nights at 11 is Freewheeling Fridays at 11 p.m. Eastern, where I talk with indie creators all over the world. Kind of like pretty much the same thing I do with And I Quote, which is the flagship show of my channel, which takes place on Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, where I interview indie creators from all over the world. We do a Q&A with them, me just asking them questions, and then we take questions from the virtual audience. And every show that I do is always live because I enjoy interacting with the people. I enjoy interacting with the fans. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, that's something that's very impressive too, is the fact that, all your shows are live. And certainly I think, for people who don't necessarily, produce podcasts, I think a little bit of inside baseball here that's always good is, in certain ways, I personally find that doing live shows, it can be easier just because you don't have to do a lot of editing and post-production. But then I also have guests who, for whatever reason, they're afraid to do live shows. And so that's why we do, the pre-recorded podcast. And then plus, this, I like to do the Monday show, but I don't always have time to do it on Mondays. So, and, like today, we're recording this on a Saturday. But anyway, well, you cover a lot of politics and a lot of pop culture. I'm the politics guy. But you cover a lot of pop culture stuff and just, a lot of fandom stuff in general. So I'm curious, how'd you, get into nerd culture way back when? Before it was cool, quote unquote?
Right. No, well, it's a bit of a long story. We might be here all night. But to make a long story short, I've been a fan of pop culture in general, just in general. I mean, I started watching movies when I was 3. I remember going to the theaters with my family, seeing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze back in 1991 AD. Great year, great music, great decade too.
Yeah,
The 90s were
yes.
great. And I think what really, to a certain extent, started it, me as a fan, really starting to come into prominence, was 93's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. When that show came out and every 6, 7, 8-year-old kid was watching it at that time, we thought it was the holy grail. I thought it was the best thing ever, from the suits to the Zords to the fighting to the iconic soundtrack pieced together by Ron Wasserman, who's been a guest on my show in the past. Great guy, Ron Wasserman, great man. Uh, it just exploded from there. We had all these different shows with Power Rangers, VR Troopers, Big Bad Beetleborgs, Mystic Knights of Tirnanog, Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series. You had X-Men, you had Spider-Man, you had just all these different shows and all these different channels, including Fox Kids, including Nickelodeon, when Nickelodeon actually knew what it was doing.
Yeah.
You had Kids WB, you had the Cartoon Network. I mean, you had all these different networks, all these different shows. So that's what really started for me. But as far as podcasting is concerned, I didn't really get into it until after high school, where I saw an advertisement for a broadcasting school in my high school hallway as a potential opportunity to do something after high school. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Let me give this a shot. So I went to the Broadcasting Institute of Maryland. What's up, Marylanders? And it was in Parkville on Harford Road. For those of you who live in Maryland, you know what I'm saying. And went there for 6 months, got 600 hours of hands-on training. Had a few internships, one with a classic rock radio station, another one with a news talk radio station, an AM station at the time, if you will. And got my feet wet. And then during that time, after I graduated in 07, I think, was it 07? Yeah, it was 07. So after that happened, my 2 high school friends of mine and I had this idea of doing a podcast. But this was before podcasting became a thing, right?
Yeah,
This was mid to late 2000s, so podcasting really wasn't a thing yet.
yeah.
So my friends and I would go to this studio that we weren't supposed to use, and we did a bunch of recordings, and then the powers that be caught up with us, and we had to stop doing it. And we recorded at another studio where we did have permission to use their facility, but then that kind of ran its course, and then we stopped, and then they went on to do other stuff, and then we just kind of let it go, right? And then years and years later, I went to this little place called college. For those of you wondering, college is an educational system. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it before, but it can be quite fun. So I went to college, and towards the latter years of my college years, some people were developing a YouTube channel. And they said, hey, we're looking for someone to join our team. And, we want to have you become a part of it. We want you with us. I said, sure, I wouldn't mind doing it. I like entertaining people and just being myself. I don't have a problem with it. And he said, okay, everyone's going to be in charge of a different playlist, right? So the one we're going to have you do specifically is interviews. We want you to interview people. And I said, okay, I don't have any trouble, approaching somebody. I have no trouble, having a conversation with somebody. I have no problem with it. So, but the problem was when we started to do this, the little thing called the apocalypse happened, also known as COVID. So we were all locked away in our houses, and we all had to do, come up with content and do it to a certain extent on our own. Even though we had weekly meetings, we had Zoom calls where we would talk about, the ideas we had for our playlist, what we wanted to do with it. And during that time, we were locked away in our homes. So I just went online like anyone else would. And I went to Facebook, which Facebook has been around for a hot minute. And I went into these Facebook groups that had creators in them, which included independent writers, independent publishers, and cosplayers, people who do voiceover and all types of stuff. So I just started joining all these Facebook groups, and I started networking with other people. And I think networking is very crucial to whatever it is you're going to do in life. So I made all these connections, all these networking connections through independent writers and publishers. And then they introduced me to their friends, and then they introduced me to their friends, and it just snowballed, right? So because of that, I got all these different interviews, and some of them I never would have expected to get unless I either had connections to begin with, or you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I took my shot, Sam. I took a shot, and it landed, and it worked because I was able to get big names, on there, certain actors that not a lot of people may know their name, but they know the face. William Sadler, who played Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and Bill and Ted Face the Music, was one of the first guests I ever had on set, which I think was one of the greatest moments of my life, certainly in my podcasting career. I've had Jim Henson's cartoonist and close personal friend, Guy Gilchrist, has been on my show. in recent years. We've had Robert Wool, who was Alexander Knox in Arliss, in Batman '89. I mean, I've had some really big, at least in my mind, big names on my virtual set. Because of all the connections I made, it just snowballed, and here I am today, 5 years later. And when COVID came to a close and people started going back to work in school, the team we had at Nerd Culture, formerly known as Nerd Culture, now it's And I Quote Channel, because I decided to rebrand it and reboot it. They said, "Hey, we're not going to do this anymore. Do you want the keys to the castle?" I said, "Yeah, I want to keep doing this. Why would I want to stop? It's too much fun. It's too much fun. Why would I want to quit?"
Yeah. Well, it's, so you and I have a lot of similarities, because I also started like around 2007, 2008, because and I was in junior high at the time, but the comic book shop that I was going to, so I grew up in Denver, Colorado.
The Mile High City. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to my Denver peeps out there.
Rockies.
So
Denver Nuggets.
Yep, and Denver Broncos.
Well, let's not forget about the Broncos now. No.
We might be able to forget about the last, couple seasons, but it's a rebuilding year, as we like to say.
Rebuilding year.
So, but no, the comic the comic store I used to go to when I was in junior high, they did a weekly podcast about, not even talking like pop culture really, or comic books, but it was mainly just like what is on sale in the store and whatnot. And this is around like 2007. So the MCU wasn't really a thing at all at that point.
Didn't even start. Yeah.
I remember like the big thing was Iron Man. Iron Man was, just coming out, the first one.
2008. Yeah.
And I remember people were like really skeptical about Robert Downey Jr. because he had just come out of rehab, and everyone was wondering, will he be able to, pull this off, or will he fall back on the wagon, again? And obviously we know now. I mean, it's kind of crazy that there's a whole generation. You and I are both old enough to know that Robert Downey Jr. did other things before he became Iron Man, but
U.S. Marshals.
Yeah. Now there's a whole generation that doesn't, even know anything else besides him as Iron Man.
Yeah. When I look at him, all I see is Tony Stark. So.
But yeah. Well, you and me and everyone else.
Yeah.
But
a billion of us look at that one dude, and he's like, "Yeah, that's Tony Stark. That's not RDJ. That's someone pretending to be RDJ."
Right. So I was kind of like, well, hey, what if I do what if I were to do something? So I got like it was actually a pretty good like USB headset, like kind of like you have right now, and I just started recording on Audacity and doing shows, and because I was also like a history and like current events nerd, I also kind of covered that like at 13, 14, which is how I kind of got into the political stuff. And fast forward to about like 2012, I had been doing the show for a while, and I was actually at some sort of like political convention, and one of the local news guys, one of the local talk radio guys, like I met him and I said, "Hey, I'm really interested in interning at the radio station." And at the time, I actually had like a thumb drive with me of like a few of my episodes that I gave him to listen to. And so it was like a weekend thing. So he actually listened to one of my episodes and said that he really liked it. He gave it to his station manager. Station manager liked it, and this is what I find really interesting. This was like about 2012, and they said, "Hey, we would love to have you on, but our station just got bought out by Clear Channel, and they're not really looking, for any local talent anymore." And so, long story short, like what I started to notice was kind of, and you and I have talked about this privately, but like corporate media, including like, some of the big like radio stations really started to kind of cannibalize local radio, including music too. And so what I find interesting is like initially my whole thing was I wanted to go to broadcasting school, but podcasting, and podcasting was going to be my gateway into that. But ironically, what happened is podcasting kind of cannibalized, I think, at least talk radio altogether. And now, like, a lot of people who were in talk radio, they've gotten laid off, and now they're doing podcasts. Now, I mean, Opie and Anthony, they split, and now each of them are doing their own things, and it's kind of wild. So
yeah, most certainly is. Yeah, it's I look, someone actually brought this up to me earlier today before one of the other shows I was doing, because like you said, I do so much. They said, about podcasting becoming a career, and I said, look, if this was like a full-time job and all I had to do was entertain people for a few hours a day, and then I would help produce other people's shows, and I was making really good coin for it, I would do it in a heartbeat. But at the same time, you got to answer to people, and you're not really in control of what kind of creations you put out. You're not really in control of what kind of shows you want to do, because they need you to adapt and respect, what they're trying to do with their format. And I'm thinking, I'm having too much fun doing what I'm doing, so why would I want to stop that? You know what I mean?
right.
Having creative control and having creative freedom, especially with what we do, is a lot of fun, and I think it's important. So that's why I do the 3 shows that I do. Even though one of them is with another YouTube channel that I'm collaborating with, they still give me free reign to do what I want on that show. Hence the reason it's called Freewheeling Fridays. So I can pretty much, take the reins and do what I want with it. But yeah, no, it's it is what it is. For those of you who do work in corporate or who work for Clear Channel, more power to you. But for people like Sam and I, we just like to do our own thing and be our own boss, and call the shots, put out the great stuff that we want to put out. But as far as what I've done in the short, it's crazy, because I started with this team of people and they're great, and we're still friends to this day. There's no bad blood or hard feelings between me and the other former members of Neuroculture's YouTube channel. But looking at it now, the YouTube channel has grown so much. I have 1,457 subscribers on my YouTube channel and Echo channel. And because of the teamwork that I've done between myself and Case, who helps put together my thumbnails, my backgrounds, my overlays, and the graphic design, I mean, my YouTube channel has just gone into the stratosphere. So, I mean, at least in my opinion. I mean, I know 1,400 followers isn't much to chew on, because there are people out there who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and people who even have 1 million subscribers on their channel. And listen, that's fine. That's fine. That's business. That's fine. But for someone who started with a group of people, and I loved everyone I was working with at the time, I think we got to like 250-500 before it was all said and done, before they left, or maybe we were at 700 before they left. But now that we're over 1,000, we're going into 1,455. It's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. But it continues to grow. Like the numbers go up every week, the views go up every week, and it's because of all the advice and the tips that I've gotten from friends and people from behind the scenes who have helped me grow not just as a podcaster, but just as a YouTube channel in general. So my hats off to everybody who's helped me, Case and Cade, and everybody that I've talked to over the years who have given me tips. I mean, I appreciate all of you, because without you, I would not be, the channel that I have now would not be where it is today. So, I know I hate to sound like an Academy Award winning actor here, Sam, but, I want to thank everybody for getting me to this point. And the other, and you know what, man, and I know we're going to bring this up, and I know I'm kind of jumping a few steps ahead of the curve, but the Discord, man,
yeah,
that thing has been a blessing in disguise. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead 5 questions, but
no.
This what I'm doing as a YouTuber and as a creator, I freaking love it. Hopefully that answers your second part of the question.
Yeah, well, I am glad that you brought that up, because I think that's one thing that like a lot of people don't get is like you know this, and I think like Luke and Nathaniel, they're starting to like understand this too. But there's recording a podcast, doing this part that's a lot of fun. It's my favorite part of this job, if you want to call it that. But then what a lot of people don't realize is there's also marketing and behind the scenes stuff that, like, yeah, it makes the show look nice and it gets it out there, but you don't necessarily, no one sees, like, us, like, clipping, you know, footage or going through, things to make graphics and stuff like that. Like, it's all the nitty gritty behind the scenes stuff that, like, nobody really appreciates. And, like, I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm gonna start a podcast and I'm gonna be the next Joe Rogan, or I'm gonna be the next Adam Carolla, or something. And they think that just because they have a good show idea and just because they bought like a fancy, microphone or fancy setup, that they're going to, be the next hottest thing. And then they're crying to me like, well, I haven't gotten any views on my, on my YouTube video or on my podcast, and I uploaded it, but no one's listening to my thing. And it's like, well, you got to put the work in a bit to, promote it. And like, my whole thing is like, other than Twitter, like I'm mostly, and social media, like I'm mostly word of mouth, as far as like how I put my podcast out there. And I mean, you kind of seem the same way too soon.
Well, I mean, I promote my podcasts on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I have TikTok. Like, I try to promote it as much as I can, but you know what? There's only so much one person can do because I'm a one-man army doing all the promoting. I mean, Case puts together all the graphics for me, which I'm very thankful for. Case, if you're watching or listening to this, follow Case, the Dutch Star Wars guy on YouTube. That guy is an incredible editor and a graphic designer. So if you're looking for an editor or graphic designer, hit him up. He's a great guy. Case, love you, brother. But yeah, no, I advertise as much as I can, but my marketing posts don't get as many hits on TikTok as they probably would do on Instagram, because I put them in my Instagram stories, which get a lot more hits, a lot more views, and people just are scrolling through their phones so quickly. They just want to look at stories and then move on to the next thing. So we live in a very fast-paced environment. We live in a very fast-paced world where people want their stuff now and they don't want to sit around and wait for it, which I understand. But then again, let's go back to something that we were taught very early on in life, folks, which is patience is a virtue. Okay. Good things come to those who wait, Sam. Good things come to those who wait. So you got to put in the work, you got to hustle, but sure enough, somewhere, some way, someone's going to see that and they're going to register. It's going to register with them. They're going to watch your content. They're going to check it out and it's going to grow. I mean, listen, as a podcaster, what you see is what you get. This isn't a character that I'm playing. This isn't a fake persona. This isn't what do you call it? A facade that I'm putting on to the public, right, Sam? What you see with me is what you get. This is my facial hair. This is my 2-week 5 o'clock shadow that you're witnessing. Okay, these are my real books that are. Where are they? They're right behind me here. So these are real books that I intend to read, although it's going to take me a very long time to do it, but it's going to happen, right? And I love what I do. And, people say that if you show your passion and enthusiasm for something, it's going to rub off on people. So as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, someone else is going to pick up on that. And that's very, very good to me. And I love what I do. So there's that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Sam, my YouTube channel it's what gives me happiness. It's what makes me happy. What makes me it's a sense of fun, right? Because life's too short to be upset and angry at people all the time, right? You got to have fun. And if I can provide that for somebody who's watching or listening to my YouTube channel and I entertain 1 out of a billion people, that's fine with me, because I would have made a small difference in society, because we live in a very dark, messed up world. So, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to be a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day, Sam. Did I just sound corny there? Yeah, I probably did. But you can edit that out later.
Hey, no, I'm keeping that in, because guess what? I love authenticity. That's the other thing too, is, you mentioned that, like, you're a smaller channel, and, like, I'm not even on, YouTube anymore, but, like, that's the other thing too, is, like, a lot of these, like, bigger, a lot of these, like, massive, channels, like, you can grow big by just chasing whatever the algorithm wants you to chase. If you're constantly, trying to, like, see what does the what does the algorithm want? Well, I'm less for me personally, I'm less interested in in just trying to chase the algorithm since it changes so much. I'd rather, discuss what I'm passionate about, even if my interests, listen, I have so many diverse interests that the algorithm doesn't really know where to put me because I'm so, diverse, at least as far as my interests go. But, if someone stumbles upon an episode and they like one thing I do, hopefully they'll subscribe, for the entire show. And, listen, I realize, for not every episode is going to appeal to everyone, but hopefully this show has had enough that, I'll have an episode that at least can appeal to, at least someone across every, demographic. So, and I kind of feel like you're the same way in the sense that you're not chasing the algorithm either. You're just doing this because you're being genuine, and I appreciate that.
No, you're quite welcome, man. Yeah, it's I just do my best. I put my best foot forward, and I try to entertain as many people as I can because I was put on this earth for a couple of different reasons, in my opinion. But one of the biggest reasons is to entertain. And if I can entertain 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 10, whatever it is, I'm going to be happy with that because as long as someone's smiling or enjoying something that I'm doing, then that's good. Because one of the things I heard this from somewhere. I can't remember who said it. I don't remember who said it first, but I know it's been repeated a number of times over history, is that if you make someone's life better, it's only going to make your life that much better. I know I'm kind of paraphrasing, I'm kind of twisting the words a little bit here, but it's basically someone said that you're not really living unless you're making a difference in someone else's life. If you make a difference in somebody else's life, that's going to help you with your life and, making your life all the better. So I think it's trying to say that as long as you care for other people and you're doing something for somebody else other than yourself, then that's good, and it's going to help you in the long run, if that makes any bit of sense.
Oh, it totally does. You mentioned the the pandemic and COVID and all that. I remember during that time, for my show, there were days when my co-host and I at the time, he's had to move on, to other things since, but my co-host at the time, he and I would just get on and BS about absolutely nothing and everything all at the same time. And at one point I got a DM from someone, I think it was on Instagram or something, saying, hey man, your live streams have made my day. And this is someone who I didn't know from Adam. I never encountered this guy, and he said, I was and he said, I've been really depressed. I was actually tempted to take my life, and just by you and your buddy having, so much fun, it kind of gave me a reason to go on. And, he's like, so thanks. I never expected that at all. And that's not really what I set out to do. I never set out to be a motivational, one of those, fake, motivational alpha male, channels or anything like that. But just the fact that people like what we do, I mean, it made my day. So, yeah. And then, so talk a little bit about how, you got involved with the Discord and, the men's adventure fiction community.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's I was on Instagram one day and I came across a post by someone named Luke Gudich, as if how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry, Luke. Your last name is one of the most unique, out of there, left field last names I've ever heard in my life. I got to be honest, but he did tell me. I think it's pronounced. It's Gudich or Gudic. I can't remember.
Yeah. Goddich, I think.
Goddich. Yeah. Luke, I'm sorry if I'm butchering this name of yours, buddy. But anyway, his post came across my Instagram feed one day, just randomly, I think it was. and I liked it, or maybe I checked in on it. Maybe I clicked on the profile that you can find on Instagram, and I went to his profile and I looked up what he was doing and who he was, just get an idea, get the 411, right? Right, Sam? It's like calling directory assistants.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, this guy's interesting. He's a writer. He's got something going on. He's got something cooking in the oven as far as what his next book or books are going to be. Let's see what's going on. So I followed him on Instagram, and I interacted with a few of his posts. And then later on, he mentioned someone named Nate Hummel. And him and Nate were are friends, and they started talking about this idea of doing a podcast, and it's called the Men's Adventure Fiction, podcast on YouTube, and you can also find it on Spotify and podcasts are these days. And I started listening to it, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, men's adventure fiction, this is a genre? I didn't know this thing existed. Like, I knew there were books that were adventurous, but I didn't know that there was a specific genre called men's adventure fiction. I didn't really know that. I mean, not really. And I started following Luke, and then that became following Nate, and then that led to checking out the podcast. And then sure enough, they mentioned something about creating a Discord. I'm like, oh, I'm in a few Discords. I don't really interact with them all that much, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm on Discord. I have a Discord account, right? Because it's a free app you can download to your phone. And they mentioned a Discord that they're going to put together for Men's Adventure Fiction Discord. And I thought, ooh, this could be very interesting. So then eventually when the link was able to be copied and pasted into my browser or, in my, app on my phone, because at times it wasn't working properly.
Right.
But one day it started working, and then I entered the Discord, and I entered this magical world of Oz, Sam. It was like Oz. And I saw everything was in color. I was like, whoa, wow, this is how everything is supposed to be. No, I'm just kind of using a analogy there for you, Sam, because I'm a movie fanatic, so it kind of comes to But ever since I started interacting with the Discord, how long have I been in the Discord now? Like maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months. I got to be honest with you. It is by far the coolest, most creative, and very supportive is the key word here I want to use, Sam. That's the key word. Supportive Discord I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I'm in another writer's Discord that's native to my area in Maryland, or near my area in Maryland where I live, but there's really no interaction in it. They barely interact. It's very loose. With men's adventure fiction, someone is always, if not every day or every other day, is constantly chiming in about what's going on in their neck of the woods, what's going on with their books, what's going on with their marketing. And there are different threads in this Discord, ladies and gentlemen, that correspond to aspects of putting together a book, publishing it, marketing it, finding places where you can, send it off to, maybe get a book talk going on. I don't know, something like that, right, Sam? So I love it. I love it, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. It's inspired me to get back into writing again, because I started writing during the pandemic, and I put together a short story during NaNoWriMo, which stands for National Novel Writing Month, in the month of November. And we did it through my local library during the pandemic, and I wrote a 3,000-word short story that I never thought I'd be able to finish, but I did. The problem was I backed myself into a corner because it ends on a flipping cliffhanger. And I don't like that. I want a one and done so I can send it off to somebody and it can get potentially published. So now that I've been in this Discord, I've been inspired to get back into writing. And now I'm writing a new short story, because it's best to start out small and work your way up to the top of the ladder there, Sam. So I'm, focusing on short stories, putting together right now, and I'm writing an 80s treasure hunter story.
That's awesome.
And it's because of people like, you and Grayson and Brina and Luke and Nate and who's the other one? Jake, Frank. Let's not forget about Frank here. Let's not forget about Frank. And all these wonderful personalities that keep coming out of the woodwork that have inspired me to get back into writing. It's inspired me to be creative again. I mean, not that I wasn't already creative to a point, but it's basically getting back to these creative muscles that I haven't stretched in a very long time. So in other words, once again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, like thanking the Academy at the Academy Awards. Thank you to the Academy, everyone. Like, honestly, thank you to everybody in the Discord, because we got some creative characters in that. Have you noticed that, Sam? Some of the talk in that Discord just shoot off some random stuff that I don't understand, but it's funny at the same time. So I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what they're saying, but I'm looking forward to learning what the terminology is. So yeah, I love the Discord. Basically, I know I'm kind of beating around the bush here, Sam, but to answer your question, It's been a great journey thus far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes in the future. And I'm in the process of putting together this story right now. So when I finish the story, it's not if, it's not a matter of if, it's when I finish the story. I look forward to getting it published. And to be honest with you, if I were to get one of my stories published in a literary magazine, a periodical, whatever it is, or even just if I put it together myself as a small, book on KDP, right? Because that's on Amazon.
Yeah.
If I do it like that, and it gets published, and I become not just Ryan, a pop culture fanatic, but Ryan the writer, how cool would that be to have that on your resume, right? I mean, how cool would that be to add that title to your repertoire, So that's basically. Hopefully, I answered your question. But yeah, the Men's Adventure Fiction Discord has been very, very good to me. Sam Whitfield, very, very good to me.
Oh well, thank you, sir.
There you go.
I mean, listen, I have to say that, like, for me personally, like, I've been writing for a long time. Basically, around the same time I started like podcasting, I also started writing. So when I was in middle school, but I wasn't really like I wasn't really an author, like a published author, until after college, just because, like, I was writing major in I was like a technical writing major in college, and so as a result, like, I had to do a ton of writing for, academic stuff and whatnot. So I never had time to really write, for myself. And then once I graduated from college, like, the pandemic had just like kind of ended, but businesses were still kind of like, they were really hesitant to hire. So, I went to a few, job interviews, and some of them were pretty good, but I never got an offer. So I was like, oh, I'm actually going to try this freelance thing out and see how it goes. And turns out that actually has gone fairly well. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to, I haven't written anything in like close to a decade. So I'm going to kind of dust, off some of these short stories that I wrote in college, and see if I can make anything out of them. So I redrafted, some of them, and that's how we got Shadows of Deception, which, hardcover version, here.
Dude, I want that book so bad.
Available on Amazon, and also all of the paperbacks are also available too. But what's funny is I met Luke because he liked one of my posts on Instagram, because I had started writing a pulp western, which is Night of the Vigilante, which just came out, this book. But I had just started writing it like last year, and Luke started like mass liking all of my posts about it, and I'm like, who is this guy? So I checked him out, and at the time I was 29, and like I knew that there were some, I knew some other indie authors, but like I thought I was the youngest guy in the indie author space, and a lot of other people did too. And I'm like, oh, sweet, there's a guy around my age. So I'm no longer like the quote unquote puppy in the indie author space anymore. So Luke and I connected, and Nathaniel, and they weren't even doing the Men's Adventure Fiction podcast yet. But I had Luke on my show, and I told him, I'm like, you need to do a podcast because you're really knowledgeable about men's adventure fiction. And he said, well, Nathaniel and I are actually planning on doing one. And I think about like 3 months after I had him on my show, that was when they launched the Men's Adventure Fiction podcast, and then they launched the Discord, and all of you fine people showed up. And yeah, it hasn't even been a full year, but it feels like I've known you guys for 5 years, in a good way though. So, Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a blast, man. Seriously, I'm getting so much from so many different people because everyone has different levels of being a published writer or they're in the process of becoming one. And so I'm like, man, at least I'm not the only one who's, the hashtag the struggle is real, right, Sam? So I mean, I haven't stretched these muscles in such a long time, and my resume pales in comparison to everybody else's. I mean, you and Nate, Sam, like all you guys, all you fellas, and women. Let's not forget about Brina and Sam. I mean, all your resumes are 6 million miles better than mine, but I'm learning and I'm getting back into writing again because I was away from it for so long. I mean, the last time I wrote a story was like 2021, maybe 2020, one of the two. I can't remember when it was. It was 2020, 2021. So it's been a very long time. Like it feels like ancient history since I started writing, but it's great to dive back into it. And I got to give a shout out to Brina Williamson because she shared music in the music to listen to thread of our Discord, and it was ancient Egyptian music, like you're in Egypt on an adventure, kind of like The Mummy, with Brendan Fraser, or just Indiana Jones, that type, just adventurous type music.
Right.
And because of that music, I said, Brina, because of the music you dropped, it inspired me to come up with this idea for a story about a kid who graduates from high school. He goes to college, but he drops out after one semester because he didn't really care for it, and he doesn't really feel like working. He just wants to, live his life the way he wants to instead of, working at his family's hardware store, the family business. So because of a history book that he read when he was in college during that brief time he was there, it kind of struck a chord with him a little bit. So my main character, Reese, gets inspired to go to Cairo, Egypt, and look for the emerald scepter from King Tut. So, which I know I'm kind of giving away some deets here, but at the same time, I'm just so excited.
No, I love it when people share
about this story. Reese has one friend that he can trust back home in the States because, like I said, he lives in a small town in Maryland. I'm in the process of, I think I'm going to either keep the name that I have it in now, or I may renaming it. This is all kind of it's all a whip. It's all a work in progress. So he comes to a small town, it's Berlin, Maryland, which is on the Eastern Shore by Ocean City. So he doesn't want to work for the small town, doesn't want to work for his family's store. So he's like, I want to do something else. If I find a treasure, I don't have to work a day in my life. Treasure is going to solve all my problems. So he, with the little money he has, or the money that he does have saved up, he's like, hey, I'm going to fly over to, Cairo, and I'm going to find this treasure. I got the map from the textbook. I can make a Xerox copy of, and that's right, Xerox. That's an old school term right there, isn't it, Sam? And go overseas and, look for this thing, and, I'm going to find it and all my problems will be solved, right? Wrong. There's more to this story than meets the eye. So stay tuned. Story I'm working on, set in the 1980s, 1985, as a matter of fact, is going to be a barrel of fun. It's going to be a lot of challenges for this main character, because that's what main characters are supposed to go through, are challenges, right? So it's a mixture of, I don't know, like Indiana Jones meets, I don't know, kind of like a coming of age story. Like, I wouldn't say Breakfast Club, but just maybe Back to the Future. Not that there's any time traveling elements. So it's basically Back to the Future meets Indiana Jones. So if you want an idea of what this story is, that's kind of what it's about. But I'm excited to see where it goes. 800 plus words into my 3,000 to 5,000 words. So I'm excited. And by the way, when I'm writing, I like to listen to music because it keeps me in the mood. So once again, thank you to our good friend Brina Williamson, best-selling writer of this one right here. Yeah, where is it? There it is. Yeah, Marina Grant, Lost Tomb of Golgotha. Haven't read it yet, Brina, but I'm getting to it. Yeah, this is a great cover, and she did all the artwork for this, which is insane.
Yeah, she's I am gonna at one point get her on the podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's and look, I actually talked to her and she's like, well, I'm a little nervous, and I'm like, what do you have to be nervous about? Like, you put me to shame because, like, I think I'm a pretty good writer, but like I can't draw for crap at all. Like, I'm, best I can do without the assistance of, like, Dolly or, any of the AI tools is stick figures, and that's on a good day. Normally, like, I can just do scribbles. But like the fact that she does art and everything is she's super talented. But also I like your idea with your story because like the 80s is my favorite decade in terms of pop culture and just music and so many different other things. I feel like that decade in particular, like, there was enough technology at that point to where like, it's kind of modern, but like also like no one was really, we didn't have the internet. No one was really glued to their, phones like we are now. So, I mean, I kind of like the fact that, you're not going for like the whole 1930s thing like indie. It's a little bit more modern, but also you're not going to be having your character pull out, his iPhone 16 to solve, problems either.
Yeah, no, originally I was going to set it in the 40s, like right after World War II, like post Last Crusade, post all the Indiana Jones movies. But then I thought, you know what? I don't. That's a lot of research that I don't really want to do. In the 1980s, even though I was born at the tail end of it, I have a bit of an idea of how the 80s were, what the fashion was, what the music was, because I love 80s
Yeah.
movies, I love 80s music, I love 80s fashion. So just the way people were portrayed back then. So I thought, you know what? Let's set this during the Reagan years because 1985 is the midpoint of the 80s, and we had so many great pieces of pop culture memorabilia that was already out at that time. So basically, when Reese, the main character, goes overseas, and by the way, don't be surprised if there's a bit of a reference to Raiders of the Lost Ark in the book, because this is set in 1985, so it's after Raiders has come out, Temple of Doom
Yeah.
had already come out at that point, Breakfast Club had come out at that point, so. And Back to the Future hadn't come out when my character. Well, no, when my character leaves, it's like right as Back to the Future is hitting theaters or right before it. So, but he's seen enough to the point where you get where he's coming from. Like you get where he's going with this in terms of why he wants to leave home, why he wants to do X, Y, and Z, why he doesn't want to be held down by his parents telling him what to do, because there was a lot of teenage angst being explored in the 80s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, John Hughes, case in point. So yeah, right now the book slash story is called Treasure of Truth. So that's the working title. I may change it, but that's what it's called. And I just can't wait to see where it goes because I have all these characters in it, and it's funny we shouldn't do this as writers, but we find ourselves doing it anyway because as soon as you like start writing out character dialogue and you can just your imagination has to picture what these characters would look like. I'm already thinking of who I would cast in the roles. So it's like,
I do the same thing.
I shouldn't
too.
be doing it because it should be the last thing on anyone's mind. But at the same time, like, dude, if I'm writing this character as the antagonist, I'm thinking of this actor to play him.
I honestly like I don't think I don't, at least for me, like I can't help it because like for me when I'm writing characters, like I have to, when I'm writing, I'm seeing the book, I'm seeing the words in my mind, if that makes sense. And so I have to picture like when I'm writing a scene, like I have to see like how, the character is doing something, like even their physical actions. Like I'm picturing that in my head. So it's hard to do that without like picturing an actor who who I can see in the role. Like one of my characters, it's funny you mentioned that that you're writing in the 80s because Shadows of Deception takes place in modern day, but I do have a prequel series that is set like in the 80s because my character John Ryder, his dad was an intelligence officer during like the 70s and then went to work for Reagan in the 80s. So I'm writing that story right now, and it's, you mentioned like I remember the 80s. Well, I mean, I was born in the 90s, but like I remember the 80s too from like, pop culture and whatnot. But even so, like researching things like, the Reagan administration, like, and like what events were going on during that time, and like trying to put my characters my fictional characters in with like, the real world too is, that's pretty fascinating. And like, it was funny because I'm like, well, if I remember I was talking to a friend, I was like, well, if I could cast someone in this role, I would cast, you know, I would cast like Harrison Ford. And they said, well, good luck with that because Harrison Ford is, he's in his 80s now. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But I'm picturing him like he's still in his like, late 30s, early 40s, when he was doing,
Indiana Jones phase. Yeah.
yeah. So, that's the other interesting thing too is even though, like I am picturing, like who we would cast, I'm kind of picturing, I guess actors from different eras. So, same thing with like, I can't believe I'm blanking. Who played Magnum PI? Oh, Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck. Yeah.
Yeah, I have Tom Selleck cast as one of my characters too.
That's
and,
boss. That's a boss move. Yeah, it's
So.
man, playing the fantasy baseball, like, casting for these roles. I mean, I can already not to get too deep in. We don't want to get too deep into the weeds here because, like I said, the story is still a work in progress, and I'm still in the process of writing it. But the antagonist, I'm thinking of John Glover to play that role, which he's already 80 years old, but I can still see him doing it.
Yeah.
Because my antagonist that's coming up on Reese's heels is a wealthy art collector slash. He's an art collector. He's a successful business, but he's an art collector. But he also is on the hunt for treasure as well. But he doesn't go through the right channels to get this treasure. He does it kind of the dirty way. And so he's the antagonist. So he hires a crew to go after it for him because, he's in his 70s. He's in 60s or 70s. He can't really go anywhere. But he hires these mercenaries to do it, and I'm thinking, dude, John Glover would be perfect for the businessman role. So he would be perfect for it because he's played so many different corrupt businessmen, like Lionel Luthor in Smallville, for example. I'm like, okay, John Glover's playing this. I can see Carl Urban playing the leader of the mercenaries. Carl Urban could pull that off.
People underestimate how good of an actor Carl Urban is.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, who can play a leader who used to be a Navy SEAL but also leads a group of mercenaries that hunt for buried treasure? I'm like, I think Carl Urban could pull that off. He's played a man of the law but also a bit corrupt as well in certain other movies. So I'm thinking it's a mixture of like Dredd meets, one of his other characters from one of his other films, maybe in Doom or something like. He can totally pull it off. I mean, the guy led a team. Didn't he like co-lead a team of Marines in the Doom movie with The Rock? Like, if he can do that, and even though that movie's bad, but even if he can pull that off, he could pull it off in this 80s treasure hunter type movie, or excuse me, story. It's a story right now. It's a story. But I could easily see him as the leader of the mercenaries. He's had a hard life. He's had difficult things happen to him. He's seen some things that he maybe didn't want to see when he was a Navy SEAL. But it's like, it's part of the job, right? It's part of the job. So he thinks that finding this treasure is going to bring him some, like, I don't know, maybe, I wouldn't say closure, but just kind of like, get away from some of the violence. I mean, even though he's authorized to use deadly force if necessary, he doesn't really want to do it, but he's being paid to do it.
Right.
So he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. You see what I'm saying? It's too much fun playing fantasy casting with these things. It really is, because the 80s were such a great decade that there's a number of actors I could see playing these roles in an 80s type setting. Do you see what I'm saying? So
it's also so much fun playing around with even though they're books, playing around with like soundtracks in books too. Like, I know that I'm too poor to afford like, music rights for like, anything in movies. If I were to like instantaneously, if I were to make a movie, but like you mentioned the 80s, like two of my favorite albums came out in 85, Brothers in Arms and then Dream of the Blue Turtles, which is Sting's first solo album.
Nice.
And I mean, just dropping little hints like that too in my book, like, and so was listening to, something that came on the radio, stuff like that. That's always fun to include as well, I find. So.
Yeah, 80s music is iconic. So many
Yeah.
different ways.
Well, kind of shifting gears
Yeah, sure.
to, you and I have talked, and I mean, you haven't really made it that much of a secret. Well, I know you have autism. You've mentioned it to me, but you've also mentioned that you, teach college students with autism and do film analysis. What's that like? Do you feel like autism? Um, I mean, I don't really want to put words in your mouth. Like, how do you feel about like having autism? Like, people ask me about having cerebral palsy all the time, and to me, it's kind of second. To me, it's kind of like it's just I don't like. It's not I don't care about it, but it's like it doesn't consume my life. It's just there. It's something I have to deal with. It's not something I think about all the time. And I'm wondering, like, is it the same for you with autism? Do people bring it up a lot, or are you one of these people that thinks it's like a superpower or what? So
No, it's a great question. Yeah, for those of you wondering, yeah, I was diagnosed with autism when I was 11 years old. So basically, it means your brain is wired differently, you receive information differently, and it may take you a minute to pick up on someone else's social cues. I don't understand people's humor half the time, so that's always been a struggle for me, even before and after I was diagnosed with autism. But it's fine. It's just who I am. But no, I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a gift. I see it as a super. People have T-shirts made that said "Autism is my superpower." So in a way, it is, because my autism allows me to keep a sharp memory about movie quotes and movie scripts and remembering things about pop culture that just come out randomly out of my mouth. And people are thinking, how do you know all this? I'm like, well, if I watch a movie once or twice, the whole script goes right up here. And not everyone, but a number of different members of the cast and crew are going to be tattooed in my brain. So I can just recall it pretty much automatically at certain points. So, but no, it's a gift. I use it to my advantage. I, have a lot, and I don't mean that in a negative way either. I use it as motivation. I've spoken on panels advocating for autism and autism related services. My current part-time job, this is my full-time job, this is a part-time job that I have, is working at the Hussman Center for Adults with Autism, which is a part of Towson University in Towson, Maryland, which, like I said, that's where I'm from. It's near where I live. And I'm a facilitator for a program called Film Fanatics, and what I do in that program is I facilitate it, and what we talk about in that program is how to analyze film. So I go over, different aspects of a film, in terms of directing it, writing it, producing it. I talk about things that have influenced filmmakers and actors and actresses over the years, like The Hero's Journey, written by Joseph Campbell, The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, the influences that Star Wars has made on film and storytelling, studies and perspectives and all that stuff throughout the years. So it's a lot of fun. I have undergrad students who are participating in our programs to get their service learning hours. They're not necessarily autistic; they're just undergrad students who are participating in the program.
right.
But I do teach autistic adults who are participating in the program. They're known as the participants, and then the students are the undergrad students who are getting their service learning hours by participating in said program. So this semester I have 11 altogether. I have, I believe it's 7 autistic participants and 4 undergrad students, and they're great. They're wonderful. We had a class the other day, and we were talking about some of our favorite movies, and then I showed them a documentary that a gentleman goes through his interpretation of the 10 stages of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. So it's important. It's great stuff. And I love that job. To me, yes, it's a job, but it's really not a job. It's just something I love to do.
Right.
So, and I've been doing it for almost a year now. This is we started in the fall and now we're in the spring semester. So once the spring semester is over, it would have been a full year since I've taught this, or not taught, but facilitated this program, if you will, because I'm not officially like licensed teacher. I'm just a facilitator. But being a facilitator is basically like getting your feet wet as a teacher. It's basically, what would it be like if you were in fact a teacher? Well, this is my way of getting my feet wet, diving into a certain part of the pool and giving it a try, right? And it's been fun for me. I love it. I mean, I'm autistic, but I'm also a fan of pop culture. So I'm kind of, playing both sides of not playing, but I'm, interacting with both sides of the fence. I'm interacting with people who do have autism and who are somewhat similar like I am, but also I'm interacting with neurotypicals who are studying autism to get a better understanding of it. And that's why the undergrad students are there. I love it. And they're great. They're very attentive. They're very respectful. They add a lot of things to the debrief sessions that we have at the end of each program. It's been very, very good to me. Towson University, very, very good to me. Why? Because I graduated from TU in 2021, son. So go Tigers. That's where my bachelor's degree comes from. I got a bachelor's degree in electronic media and film. I got no shame, brother. Plus, I took a minor in applied adult disability studies. So I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. So I know my stuff when it comes to autism, Sam, because I'm one of them.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And, I graduated from the University of South Florida in 2022, technical writing major here. It's funny. People think I have autism because I'm so good with like pop culture and I'm the same way. I can bring up like really random facts about like movies and pop culture. I'm not autistic. It's just growing up with an uncle and my dad. He's a big film fanatic like since I was 5. So now I'm the guy who everyone brings me to trivia night at the bar, and I'm smart enough to be like, well, I'll be on your team if you buy me a few beers or something like that. So that's my payment. But
there you go. Pay my bar tab and I'll get you all the answers. We'll win $1,000 tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I think it's I think it's great what you're doing, because I think there are a lot of not all negative stereotypes about autism. I think a lot of people, they don't necessarily understand like what it even is sometimes, and I don't think they understand that there are layers. And I also think that there are definitely people who especially like with Gen Z now and some of the younger generation, they definitely like to claim, oh, I have autism, and they're clearly not. They're just lazy, or they want they want it to use it as like an excuse for something. So the fact that you actually have it and understand what it is, and are using your position to teach others, I think is like really cool. And we're all about that at Right to Offend Media. So
no, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Man. I appreciate the support too. Yeah, it's been a heck of a year. I'm not gonna lie. Dumping my toes into this pool, but I come from a family of teachers. My brothers were teachers at one point in their lives. My mom and my dad, they're no longer with us, but they're right here. They were teachers too. So, I learned, what they say, right? We learn from the best. And in this case, it was my family. It was my brothers, my mom, my dad. And, they especially my mom and dad, they were very loving, caring individuals, not just in their marriage, but with other people. And I'm just like, man, and it just rubbed off on me. It's like, they're loving and caring. And I kind of have that attitude when I go into a room. I try to be respectful, but I also try to be loving and caring, because that's who my mom and my dad were. So, in a way, me as a teacher now, all these years later, I feel like it's a tribute to mom. It's a tribute to my dad. And just, I love him. I miss him. I'm always going to love him. I'm always going to miss him. But I think deep down, and for those of you who have lost a loved one, how this goes. They're with you right here. They may not be physically in the room, but they're there. And I think mom and dad are pretty happy and proud with some of the things I've done. I mean, I wish they were here physically to see it, to experience it, so I can share it with them. But deep down, that your loved ones are always going to be right here, guys. So try to keep that in your mind. I mean, in the words of Skywalker, no one's ever really gone.
Yeah.
Just got to keep pushing forward, man, because it's not. Listen, losing a loved one for anyone is not easy. It's never an easy thing. But if you're doing something to honor their memory, or you're doing something that makes you happy, they're going to be happy for you. So just keep pushing, man. I mean, look at you, Sam. You're in the sunshine state of Florida, where it's 70 degrees every day. All you got to do is put on a shirt, a pair of flip-flops, and a pair of shorts, and you're good to go. But man, All the hurricanes, though, more power to you, because those hurricanes have taken its fair share of damage on Florida, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm very blessed that, like, the last hurricane that we had, like, it actually went over our neighborhood, and we had to evacuate out of town. Fortunately, we have, like, a second home in Georgia, which is where we evacuated to. So
Georgia, okay.
that's nice, and again, super fortunate to have it. But, like, when we came back and saw that our house was unscathed, I mean, we were very thankful indeed. And also about, like, losing relatives too. I mean, I've shared this. Maybe you weren't in the Discord yet, but I shared that my uncle, who I just mentioned a moment ago, my dad's brother, he was a firefighter for close to 30 years, and unfortunately he passed away 10 years ago almost from liver cirrhosis, because he was an alcoholic. And it's sad because you wouldn't think he was an alcoholic. He was never mean, or he was never like, at least until the very end, like, I could never tell he was an alcoholic, just because he was very high functioning. But he eventually succumbed to it. And I didn't have a lot of self-confidence when I was a teenager, and he was like a second father to me. And so, when I lost him, because my biological dad and I aren't that close, it was kind of like I lost my, father. And, and even like 10 years later, it definitely does. I don't want to say it gets easier, but your grief definitely does. It never goes away completely, but it does change. And now, like, with all the books that, I've written in the podcast, I'm like, man, I would be, I know that Gary would be super proud. He's still with me. And in fact, I've got his fire helmet sitting over my desk right now.
Oh, wow.
I can certainly relate with you with losing loved ones. So
yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, but everybody experiences it. You just gotta go through the motions, man.
Yeah.
It comes in waves too. It comes in waves. Like, one day you're completely fine. The next day you could see a small object, or maybe something you hear on the radio or the TV set, and it reminds you of that loved one. You just break. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just break down in tears. So it happens, man. It happens. You just got to go through the motions. But yeah, no, it's just got to keep pushing forward. It's what Rocky Balboa taught us, right? It's not about how hard you can hit, Sam. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward, because that's how winning is done. So it's like,
yeah,
that's man, and that's a great thing about pop culture. You get so many motivational quotes from these films. I'm telling you, like, Rocky Balboa is pretty much Rocky Balboa is one giant motivational, like, story / quote, right, Sam? Like, every single movie is a giant TED Talk, and it's an awesome one for sure. But there are so many other movies out there that inspire me to keep going, despite the fact that I keep getting hit with these obstacles. But everybody's different, man. Everybody's different.
So as a podcaster, I love asking this. If there was one individual in pop culture who you haven't had a chance to interview yet, but, like, if they just said, hey, Ryan, you can get anyone you want to, who would you want on your show?
On And I Quote, the flagship show? I mean, man, that's a long list. But if I had to pick one, because there's so many.
Well, 5 of them.
It's a long list, for sure. But, well, let's go with this for a minute here. Let's think about this. So, obviously, the first person I want on set is Henry Cavill, because he got the shorter end of the stick with the DC cinematic universe that they were trying to put together with Zack Snyder at the time. And I love Man of Steel. I think it's a criminally underrated movie, and I think he's my favorite live action iteration of Superman, in my opinion. I know that everyone says no one's ever going to top Christopher Reeve, and listen, I respect Christopher Reeve. I respect everything he did. but Henry Cavill took it to a different level, brother. He took it to a completely different level. So I want Henry Cavill on my set. I want Professor Xavier himself, Patrick Stewart, on my set. I want Patrick Stewart. That'd be fantastic. I would lose my mind. I would lose my mind. I'm like, it's Picard and Professor Xavier in the same shot. So that'd be very, very good to me. I would. Let's see here. I would want. Man, there's so Sam. There's so many. I would want. Let's see. Probably there. Man, this is so hard.
People ask me this all the time.
It's such a hard because there's so many different names for so many different reasons. But one of them would be Terry Hatcher, because she was one of my favorite iterations of Lois Lane. There's a bit of a pattern going on here because I love Superman, so I like to get Terry Hatcher's take on the character, even though she's talked about it numerous times in convention panels that have been taped and posted on social media. But I want to hear it from her directly. You see what I'm saying?
Was she also one of your first crushes, or
She was, yeah. She was,
okay.
because she was the Bond girl in Tomorrow Never Dies. She was, and she was also Lois Lane at the same time. She was filming that, so that because she was on Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman with Dean Cain. So yeah, Terry Hatcher, if you're watching this, reach out to me. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'll put you on the show. Anyway, gosh almighty. I would say, who's another one? I gotta think very quickly here. I know I'm running off the steam engines here.
No, you're good.
Because I want to show respect to the actresses that are out there, because so many great actresses. But Terry Hatcher is certainly one of them. Another one. This is hard. This is so hard. Let's think of because I am into this fandom. I'm just trying to think of who we want from set. Wow.
What fandom is it?
No, I'm trying to think. Should I go with someone from the Star Trek community, or should I go from nah. This is so hard. Wait, you know what? For argument's sake, I haven't. You know what? This is completely out of the box. This is completely out of left field. Sasha Craig. No one knows who she is unless you watched Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue as a kid. But Sasha Craig was the Yellow Ranger on Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, and she has started going to conventions and started making the rounds. And I want to hear her take on being a part of the convention circuit and being a part of the Power Rangers community, because I've met so many different of the actors already. But I want to hear what Sasha Craig's experience was being an actress on set for Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. So I would go with her just to cater to my love of Power Rangers as a property. So she was the Yellow Ranger, okay? Yellow Ranger in Lightspeed Rescue. It came out in 2000. Look it up. It was good. It was one of the better early seasons of the series. And then if I had to name a fifth one to round out the circle here, man, this is so hard. This is so tough, Sam. You know what? Because I grew up on this guy, he was #MyJamesBond, Pierce. Let's get Pierce on there. Yeah. I want to pick his brain for a minute, because Pierce starred in three of the four best Bond films that I saw at that time, because the fourth one, Die Another Day, never happened.
Right.
But the first three are good, right, Sam? So I can talk his ear off all day. But yeah, Pierce, if you're watching this, I respect you wholeheartedly for your work in Mrs. Doubtfire, because if it weren't for Mrs. Doubtfire, that was one of the roles that nabbed you for James Bond, because people saw you. I mean, they wanted you before Timothy Dalton, but because you were tied up by Remington Steele, the people at Remington Steele wouldn't let you come in to be Bond. But because of what you did in Mrs. Doubtfire, stretching your comedic chops a little bit, or dramatic / comedy chops to a bit of a degree, you got the roles as Jimmy Bond. So I want to pick your brain, what it was like to work with Robin Williams. That's first of all, and then second of all, working with Femke Janssen as Xena Onatopp. I want to pick your brain, man, because GoldenEye has so many fond memories for myself, and Sam included, because he was there. Because I saw that movie in the theater, Sam, and I saw it in United Artists Theater with my dad, and that was the first James Bond film I ever saw, and it blew my mind, and it made me a fan of the action film genre that is, I mean, it's not as good as it once was in the 90s, but it's still going today.
Right.
So, because of films like, what was it called? GoldenEye and The Mask of Zorro, I freaking love action movies. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, you and I are the exact same way.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess if we're doing lists, for mine, Clint Eastwood would be number one on my list.
You want the guy from Unforgiven?
Whew.
That's a big one, man.
I want the guy from Unforgiven. I want Dirty Harry. I want the man with no name.
Yes. Yes.
I wrote like 2 papers on him in college.
That's awesome.
And he, and I mean, he's a lot of, I guess, people, think that some of his roles might have been toxic, masculinity or whatever. But,
it was a different era, man.
It was a different era. And I never saw him as, like necessarily being toxic. I just saw him as like a confident, strong,
very collaborative filmmaker and a collaborative actor, because he loved working with other people.
Yeah. And he does have some very deep thoughts. So he's number 1 on my list. Number 2, I gotta say, out of like the modern ones today, I would also say Henry Cavill, just because I think he's super talented in everything he's done. Like you said, I love Christopher Reeve, but I think he really, at least for our generation, I think Henry Cavill is Superman.
He's our Superman. He gave the character a little bit more depth too.
No shade to Brandon Routh either.
No, I've met him before. He's a nice dude.
But Brandon Routh, I feel, was like trying to do Christopher Reeve's Superman, and
yeah,
I mean, Henry just made his own. And also, like, he's super down to earth, and just he loves fans too. So third is Pierce Brosnan, just because, I mean, I think like you, I grew up loving 007, and also like Pierce Brosnan is the same age as my stepdad, who I am very close to, and also like now that he's older, Pierce has done some interviews, and he really comes off as just like a very warm and genuinely humble guy, and he's been married to the same woman for close to like 40 years, and I mean, people like to say that Keanu Reeves is, the nicest guy out there, and he is. He's awesome too. But
I wouldn't mind interviewing him either. John Wick. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my ideal, if I could cast any 2 guys in the same movie together, it would be Pierce Brosnan and Keanu Reeves, and Mel Gibson too. Actually, I feel like people
really okay.
I feel like people sleep on Mel a bit. Mm-hmm. I know
he's actually starting he's making the rounds right now at conventions. In case you want to meet him there, Sam.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Mel Gibson's making the rounds, so stay tuned. He may be coming to Florida pretty soon.
But yeah, I mean, Pierce Brosnan is on my list. As far as actresses, Christina Hendricks from Mad Men.
Sure. Yeah.
She was kind of my first crush, but also,
wow,
she is actually a very talented actress too.
Yep.
I think a lot of people, because of her looks, overlook how good of an actress she actually is. Gina Carano too is another one.
Cara Dune from Mandalorian. Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, and I actually know, I don't know them well, but I know a few people who know her. So Gina, please come on the Whitfield Report.
Get on it, man.
And I quote, I'll just show both.
Yeah, Gina Carano. I mean, my gosh,
So-
I grew up watching her as Crush on American Gladiators. That's how I was introduced to her.
Yeah. So, and then I guess as far as like celebrities who aren't around anymore, I think Ian Fleming would be, the author of Bond. I would love to pick his brain.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked about people who are dead, but if I could interview someone who's no longer with us, Robert E. Howard, who wrote Conan, would be nice.
Yeah. Then Hugh Hefner, because
that's a polarizing figure, man. That's a polarizing figure. But if you want to interview him, hey, more power to you.
Well, polarizing, but I also think he he was in media for a long time. I think he's one of those figures that I would love to obviously it's hard to really know like what anyone would think of things today, but I think maybe some people might change, and you just never know. And and then same with like Rush Limbaugh. So those are my two, I guess, polarizing figures, I guess, if
Polarizing
you
with a
want
capital
to
P.
think
But
of.
yeah, those would be an interesting guests for your show somewhere down the line.
So yeah, I mean, just there are lots of people that I've been blessed to interview, including you, and also just tons of others. So yeah, and I can't wait to be featured on. Well, I've already been featured on one of your shows, but you also do the writer showcase too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
that's a new thing we're doing. Yeah, that's going to be a monthly show, the Writers Showcase. It's going to be on a certain Saturdays each month at 7 p.m. Eastern. Gonna be a lot of fun. Episode 2 is going to drop, I believe it's April the 19th. So I'm in the process of putting together the guest list for that. I know Henry from the Discord is going to be on there already. So yeah, we'll get some people on there. I thought, what is it? Sam, we could get you on there. So yeah,
yep.
it'll be an interesting panel. We'll like I said, I got to put the details together in the Discord and figure out who can do what. But so far we got Henry booked for it, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Writer Showcase episode 2, because these days, Sydney, you gotta make a sequel. So yeah, the Writer Showcase episode 2 is coming in late April. So stay tuned. Follow us across social media. You get all the information there. Not to jump ahead 2 steps of the curve here, Sam, but yeah, lots of great things are happening, and the Writer Showcase is a brand new show that I'm very, very proud of. The first episode is still, the views are climbing. It has like 183, 184 hits. So it is booming, Sam.
Yeah, not bad. And
that's great. It's a great show. It was a lot of fun. Some great personalities, great writers, and a lot of bright futures ahead of us. So there you go.
Well, and I mean, I feel like that's another thing too, is like I have the podcast, but like I'm also like people know me as, a writer already. I feel like, some people might overlook the fact that, you're not an author yet, although you will be, dude. You will be soon. But like big props to you for just supporting everyone and helping to push us all out there, because people like you are the reason why people buy my books, and really appreciate it.
Well, if you need me if anyone out there needs me to be their hype man or wingman, let me know. I can do it. Yeah, I've had a lot of experience in my lifetimes.
Yeah, and
it's fun. It's fun. Someone actually wrote this to me on social media a long time ago. Charles F. Millhouse, who's an indie pulp writer from StormgatePress.com. You can find him at StormgatePress.com. He said, Ryan is like that character from Marvel Comics. What is it? What's his name? Rick Jones, I think it is, the supporting character for the Incredible Hulk, whatever it was. It's either Rick Jones, Henry Jones, one of the two. And he said, Ryan's like this character because he's so supportive of all these people and everything that they're doing. And I'm like, listen, if I like what I see and I like what I hear, I'm going to sell it. And I'm gonna believe in it. So if Charles F. Millhouse has a book coming out that I'm interested in, I'm going to tell other people about it, because either I've read it or I'm going to buy it, and I think other people should buy it too. So that's why I plug as many people as I can on my social media. It's not easy because there's so many of them, but
no,
I do it as much as I can. And when I get feedback like that, it's like, okay, I'm doing something right. So I'll just keep doing it until I can't do it any longer.
They're always, I'm the same way. I'm out here trying to sell books, but I'm also trying to sell. I'm also trying to help other people sell their books, whether or not they're established or not. Because I feel like if we can't grow together, like obviously there's room for friendly competition, but I feel like why tear down others? Why can't we just grow together, especially in the indie space? I feel like that's a good way to go. So
yeah, I don't really think of it. I don't even want to hear the word when I'm in rooms with other people about competition. It's not a competition. It's about putting your book out, putting your story out, getting it published, letting people read it and experience it for themselves, and just celebrating the fact that you wrote something that is out in the world and that's going to live on forever. Period. So, I mean, Sam, you got all your books. Everyone else we know has got books out, or what do you call it? Monthly magazines like Frank does. So it's like, hey, a story is a story, whether it's in a magazine or a book on KDP or Amazon, doesn't matter. A story is a story, and it deserves to be read. It deserves to be shared. So if I get something published, it's gonna be a nice feather in my cap. And I'm not doing it for, obviously, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I love to piece together a story that I think other people would enjoy reading, right? So
Yeah.
if that works, great. And if it doesn't work, if people don't like it, that's fine too, because what I write isn't going to be for everybody. What I publish isn't going to be for everybody, because every audience and every piece of artwork that's ever come out is subjective. So it may work for one person, but the person standing next to them, they may not like it at all. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, people may not be into treasure hunting stories. Maybe they don't want to hear what I have to say about this kid going off, you know, on his own and trying to find this treasure to solve all his problems. And that's fine, because and by the way, there's no such thing as perfect, right?
No.
No such thing as perfect. Nothing that I've done, as much as I love what I do, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's just something I put out for people to see. And if they like it, great. And if they don't, that's fine too, because I'm not doing this for the popularity. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it because I love it. And if you love what you do, folks, it's never called work, period.
And also, I feel like, I mean, again, you're right. It's not about the money, but I definitely do feel like if you are passionate about what you do and you find your audience, the money definitely will follow. You know, one thing I actually talked to Brina about the other night is like, I'm known for the Shadows of Deception saga, which is kind of like my spy thriller series, but I've also written like a mafia crime fiction series called Blood Ties. And it's a short story anthology. And when it first came out, I think I sold like one copy in the first month. And obviously I was kind of disappointed. I was like, man, I wish more people like this. But then Terrence in the Discord got a copy in January. And he read it and he's like, man, this is the best thing you've done. And then other people started to pick it up. And so, you know, again, the whole patience thing of, you know, it might not sell at like gangbusters right away, but it's you know, eventually things find their audience, and you know, you just got to be patient. So yeah. But anyway, well, anything any other topics that you want to cover? Anything you want to ask me? Or
Sorry about that. What I was anything else I want to talk about? I mean, who knows? But we could be here all night. No, I just want to say that it's been great going back into the Wayback Machine.
yeah.
About my YouTube Hollywood story. I have no problem sharing it. I have no shame in telling this story because I've told it so many times, and I'm not ashamed of who I am as an autistic individual. I'm not ashamed of who I am as a pop culture fanatic, as one might say, because there are things I love out there, and I'm going to continue to enjoy loving them until I can't love it anymore, or until it's not fun for me anymore. No, this has been great, Sam. Thanks for having me. You know, it's been great to reminisce and talk about what I've been doing in the past, some of the things I've learned from my past, and some of the things I'm going to do in the future. This has been great. You're more than welcome to, you know, call me back here anytime.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's also, and thanks for coming on too. It's always great for me to talk to someone who has been in podcasting for as long as I have, because you know, I'm thrilled, you know, that there are so many people who have podcasts out there now, you know, like Nathaniel and like Luke and like so many others. I mean, podcasting is the cool thing now, but you and I both remember when it was still in the underground phase and when nobody knew what it was. So I always like to, you know, kind of, you know, commiserate with the old school, you know, with the OG podcasters, as it were, like you and myself. So, you know, I appreciate that. And like I said, man, I really appreciate everything you do to just hype everyone up. So, anyway, well, where can people find you, good sir?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'm more than happy to come back anytime. Let me know. My name is Ryan of Anaco Channel. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Was it Facebook? The whole nine, simply at, which is right here on my name tag, right below here, at And I Quote channel. That's where my YouTube channel is. It's primarily a YouTube channel, but we do stream on Twitch. We stream on Facebook. So check us out there. It's all under the same name. We talk about movies, TV series. We talk about comic books, words on a page, because Sam and I we're kind of writers here. It's kind of our thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do interviews with some of the best indie creators all around the world on Saturdays, 12 p.m. Eastern, and then the other shows I do are on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern, whether it's movie anniversary watch-alongs or meeting of fandom episodes. And then Friday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern is Freewheeling Fridays, where I also interview indie creators from all over the world, whether they got a Kickstarter campaign going on or they just want to talk about pop culture. They want to shoot the breeze, if you will. I do that on the Madness Entertainment Group YouTube channel. You can follow them there. But I also do have a playlist for it on my YouTube channel, so you can find it there as well. But yeah, that's where you can follow me. I do have a link tree. It's in my social media bios on Instagram and TikTok. Look me up if you're an indie creator and you want to talk about something, you want to plug it on my show on And I Quote, you want to be a guest on And I Quote in the future. I got plenty of open spots starting in May until the end of the year of 2025. So check it out. There's a Calendly link in my link tree, which you can find in my social media bios. So check it out. And I think you're going to like the way you look after watching or listening to And I Quote channel, because I know a thing or two, because I've seen a thing or two. So there you go, Sam.
Well, I can't wait to be on myself here, soon. Very, who knows? I might be hitting you up once book 4 of the Shadows of Deception saga is ready to release. So that would be cool. And it's been an honor to get to know you, and support all your stuff. And also, are you you're on Spotify too, correct? Or the pod?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, I do have an audio feed for my podcast, but the person who updated it left me a long time ago, so it hasn't been updated since September of almost 2 years ago. But there is an audio feed for it. It's on Spreaker. If anyone knows what Spreaker is, you can check it out. But that link is in my link tree, so it's all there. You can go back and listen to some past episodes, but the most updated stuff is only available on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Because, like I said, it's a YouTube channel, and I do everything through video anyway. But you can always have it on YouTube or Twitch or whatever in the background. You can still listen to me, so you don't have to look at my face. That's the best way you can find me.
Yeah. Well, if and we can talk offline. If you do need help with some podcasting stuff, I might know someone who would be willing to help you. Be me.
Okay.
With
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Spotify stuff. But yeah, just again, man, thanks for coming on, and really appreciate it. And folks, I really appreciate you for listening to the Whitfield Report and for watching us. Please follow Ryan on all his socials, and please support this show as well. And folks, I will be back for the Wednesday live show, 10 p.m. Eastern. And until then, God bless, take care, and see you on the next episode, everyone.
The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Thank you for watching the Whitfield Report live on the Right to Offend Media Network. Make sure to check out Sam's books on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You can follow Sam on X at SamW_NGC and the Right to Offend Media Network at RTO Media. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And until next time, God bless, God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy, in that order.